Hello, my name is Fernand Marques,
Hello, I'm Kenneth Michael.
and we're here to introduce our web series, Once Upon a Time in New York.
Yeah, this will be a series with young and up-and-coming actors based in New York and what hopes and dreams they have for themselves in the industry.
I hope you enjoy our video, and we'll see each other at the end.
You already know. Hello, I'm Kenneth Michael, and this is Once Upon a Time in New York. And this is my guest.
JASON Tolentino.
All right, let's get to it. So, Jason, I learned that you were from Las Vegas, Nevada,
Yeah,
right?
born and raised.
Born and raised. So how do you feel about the transition from Las Vegas to New York? Differences?
Yeah, I love the city. You don't have a car here, which is interesting. I owned a car. I owned a little Nissan Altima, but I love the culture here. I love everything that kind of has to go on for you to kind of get where you're going. It's lovely here. I think the environment for New York is a lot different, but I enjoy it.
You enjoy it? And what would you say is like the biggest difference between New York and Las Vegas?
The density.
The density?
Yes,
Yeah.
because there are, I think, fewer people obviously in Las Vegas, but the simple fact of you don't get to see them all the time. And the people that you do run into are the people that you kind of already know. So you live in that neighborhood, you go to the same Smiths, you go to the same kind of locations for anything that you want to do, specifically like movies even. I run into people that I know. But here, it's a new person all the time. I rarely run into anybody except for Neil, one of the teachers.
Neil Lerner, yes.
Yeah, I run into him all the time here.
Okay. And I guess you also, I learned you also come from a musical theater background. And
Yeah.
what would you say is like what contributes into film acting for musical theater and vice versa? Because I know it's very different, you know?
They're extremely different, yeah. I mean, theater in general, you have to play it at the back of the house. That's a big thing. You have to use a lot of your body in order to create these dynamic things that somebody from the little old lady in the back is what we always called her back in my school. Like, make sure she can hear you, make sure she can see you, make sure she knows the story. But the only thing that it really likes to play into is physical comedy, like stand-up and whatnot. It's kind of one of the things that I use a lot of is my musical theater training. It takes a lot of voice in order to change kind of how the expression is going to come out. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest factors that I take in from there.
And I also researched about you that you did some karate training. How does that play into your
Oh yeah, I took Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I took Taekwondo for 3 years, so I'm a black belt, first degree. And then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu I didn't really get far into, but another thing that has to do with knowing my space, especially if I were to do stage combat, which is a lot of
combat.
Yeah, I would love to do films like that. You have to know when to stop short so you don't actually hit the guy.
Well, you see, I always actually hit the guy.
Oh yeah.
I need to learn how to not.
Yeah, sorry. It's a skill, man. It's really.
It is a
really
skill,
good.
honestly, because you know you're going full frontal strength, and then you just gotta stop yourself. and
Well,
it's-
the trick is a lot of the times too is not to really twist your foot. Because in a real
that's
punch, you twist your foot to get the full maximum range. But if
wow.
you don't actually take the step forward that much, you're gonna stop short, which is perfect because you need to aim away from their face.
yeah, that makes sense.
Unless you want to be like Tom Holland with a broken nose.
Yeah, maybe you can give me some lessons. And what is your ultimate goal, I guess, essentially, in the industry?
As an actor, I want to do at least one feature thing a year. I would love to be in a film every year, do a different project all the time. But also, if I was ever to be in a TV show, I think that would be the next thing is like do at least a couple of movies and then do maybe a long-running TV show, hopefully be successful, and then after that maybe go back to doing movies. And I would love to go back to doing theater actually as well.
Like sort of Broadway.
I'd love to do Broadway if that was presented to me. That'd be the best.
And how do you feel if they offered you a major role on Hollywood, but it's a full frontal movie?
I wouldn't do that. I could never. Probably not. I would think about it. If the money was there for the film and I had done practically everything by now, maybe. Probably not.
That makes sense because, you know, I feel that is something, those are sacred things.
Probably. I mean,
should
I just think that you have to have some limitation on yourself. yourself. Otherwise, how far are you really willing to go?
Hey, I agree with that.
Just make sure you always think about it first, at least. You know? Be like, am I ready for it?
Are you ready?
I don't know, are you?
Makes sense. Alright, and I guess this is the last question. And I find it an important question. What is your dream role? You know, because I know it's a simple question, but it has so much meaning to so many people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, give me your thoughts on that.
All right, so a lot of people know this about one of the biggest reasons that I started getting into acting in the first place was because of the Spider-Man. And I look nothing like any of the people that have been cast as Spider-Man. But I would love, I would love to be one of the ones. Now that it's become so big, it'll probably die out by the time that I even be considered for a Spider-Man role. Because I mean, it's so huge now. But I think that would be one of the best things to do is to be in the suit, have to go through all of the circumstances, and then also have your own personal twist on it. Like we saw 3 incarnations of this character,
Right,
all of which good, all of which brilliant and interesting. But if I could have my own personal twist and maybe even play one of the versions of Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker, like Miguel O'Hara would probably be the only one that I might consider for, unless they make a Filipino Spider-Man. But
it's possible.
It's possible because he's a 2099. Maybe he could be. Maybe
Exactly. I mean, you have Miles Morales.
Well, Miles Morales, I'm waiting for the live action. But yeah,
that live action too, actually. And I guess I do have one more question. How do you feel about the major movements in the film industry? I mean, what I mean by that is people migrating to South Africa and Atlanta, Georgia, and all these filming locations.
Ironically, the biggest thing that I think that opens up more into is kind of like the foreign films that have become so much more important in Hollywood. Even Parasite being the biggest example now that won an Oscar, and that's just absolutely fantastic. As a guy that watches so much anime as a kid, I obviously have been doing it since 2008, so I beat you to it. But I mean, the fact that things like that are opening up stories and events that we as Americans especially don't get to see and experience, it's just kind of wonderful because it's things that are going on every day that we will never see, and that's the whole point of a movie. Sometimes it's to see something that you know is true, but you can't view it.
And, wow, yeah, there's just, God, there's so many filming locations now. And,
New Mexico even, I think, is getting very large.
Mexico,
Which,
yes.
hey, if I had to move back to Vegas, California, New Mexico, well, I'm good.
okay, well, with that concludes our show.
All right.
Thank
you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, would you like to shout yourself out?
Yes, I am Jason Alexander Tolentino on Instagram, and that's where I'll be posting all my future endeavors. And you've been here at Once Upon a Time in New York.
Once upon a time in New York, you heard it. Hello again, and we're back. I would like to dive into a subject Jason actually brought up with musical theater, because it is really interesting. I mean, the similarities and the differences between film acting and musical theater, and just theater in general as a whole, dramatic theater. Because you see, in musical theater, you have a symphony that you can sort of get into your head, and you get in sort of the rhythm of it. As to where dramatic acting and dramatic film acting, you have to go to a more personal and deeper level of yourself, and sometimes it becomes a little degrading, and you even have to get like therapists and just people to talk to if you go certain places that are just too hard for you to get out. And, it is really interesting because I'll give you a perfect example. One of my favorite actors right now, Paul Mescal from Normal People, well, he said the biggest difference between musical theater and dramatic film acting is actually that of the symphony, because it's sort of like musical theater. It is a lot more more lively in a way that it's a lot happier, if that makes any sense, you know? I feel it does. And And he said it was a challenge for him because he actually started with musical theater at school, and then he migrated into dramatic theater acting. And it is, it's quite interesting how he basically dove into his performance in normal people, and he went to a lot of personal places that he didn't go in musical theater. And it's sort of, I don't want to say dramatic film acting is harder than musical theater. From my point of view, it kind of is, I gotta say. Because if you sort of have the voice for musical theater, everything else is just like 20% work. As to where film, dramatic acting is just, it takes you to really dark places if you let it, you know? So essentially what I'm trying to get at is dramatic acting is a lot harder than musical theater. Also, if you guys could leave any specific questions in the comments, I would really appreciate it. And hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.